Last night's South Carolina primary was closely watched between challenger Katie Arrington and incumbent Congresswoman Nancy Mace. With us now is the winner of the race, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Welcome back to National Report. Congrats on the win. How are you feeling this morning?
We are feeling exuberated and excited. We still have a long road to hoe. We've got November coming up, and this is a swing district, so we're going to be working hard starting today to ensure that this seat stays in Republican hands.
Well, President Trump, the former president, is optimistic that it will. He congratulated you on Truth Social, sending this out, saying Katie Arrington was a long shot but ran a great race and way overperformed. Congrats to Nancy Mace, who should easily be able to defeat her Democrat opponent. Congresswoman, did you see that truth that was sent out? How does that make you feel this morning?
Well, it's great. I mean, honestly, the Republican Party, we need to unite behind all of our nominees. If we want to get a majority back in 2022, if we want to win the White House in 24, we have to work together. And so I'm appreciative of the message. I welcome the message from everybody that's out there. We've worked really hard in this campaign and in this race. And now we've got to unite together to get this majority back. We've got to fix every crisis that Joe Biden has created, from inflation to gas prices to the increases at the grocery store to the border, what we did in Afghanistan. We have a lot of work to do, and we need strong Republicans. And when Republicans win their nominations in these primaries this summer, we need to support our nominees so we can get a majority in November.
And that is the goal of the GOP. We've heard repeatedly this anticipated red wave come November to take that back the majority in the House, possibly the Senate as well. Let me ask you, though, about what's happening right now in Congress. We learned yesterday that the House did vote on that security protection bill for Supreme Court justices and their families. However, there were 27 of your Democratic colleagues who voted no on that protection bill. Your thoughts on that decision?
Well, it's disgusting. And those are the same Democrats that want to defund the police. The judicial branch is the third branch of government, and all of our justices should be protected. You had someone who showed up armed and dangerous on the front steps of Justice Kavanaugh's home last weekend. This is a very dangerous situation. You have members of Congress that are anteing up the rhetoric. You have a president who will not tamp it down and tell these folks to stop, encouraging in some ways what's happening here. And this sort of thing can lead to violence. I'm someone who had my house spray painted last summer by Antifa or anarchists or whatever the heck they are. I don't really know the difference. I've had my car keyed. I mean, we are facing really critical times right now, and we need folks to be peaceful to protest. We need to protect our every branch of government, including our Supreme Court justices, regardless of the side of the aisle that they lean, and ensure that all of our communities across the country are safe.
Yeah. Speaking of safety, right now there have been discussions underway that have to do with gun safety legislation. That coming out, bipartisan effort, so in the Senate right now. So could take a while before it makes its way over to the House. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is speaking out in support of what's being discussed right now, at least the framework for it. Let's listen to what he had to say.
For myself, I'm comfortable with the framework, and if the legislation ends up reflecting what the framework indicates, I'll be supportive.
And in case you're wondering what that framework entails, here's part of it. Enhanced background checks for buyers under 21, funding to incentivize states to pass red flag laws, funding for mental health, school safety, and closing the so-called boyfriend loophole. So again, it's initial stages. We don't have the final version of this bill here. But Congresswoman, where do you stand on discussion about enacting these gun violence and safety proposals?
Well, excuse me one second. I haven't had a chance to read the legislation because we've been working on our primary one last night. It's like election day is like Super Bowl, so I haven't had a chance to take a look at it and dive in. But any kind of legislation that we work on, we want to make sure we're not infringing on the rights of law-abiding citizens. It is not law-abiding citizens that are breaking the law and shooting people in the streets. If you look at Chicago, where we have gun control, they have gun control where you're not allowed to bring in larger than a 9mm. They have mass shootings every single weekend, usually dozens of shootings. It's not, that sort of thing doesn't work. So anything that we do must have a strong mental health component. We need mental health counselors in every single school in the country. We need to make sure that SROs or school resource officers are fully funded and that they're armed in our schools. And we need to make sure that, like in Uvalde, the killer there, he was shooting people with a BB gun in the days, weeks, and months leading up to his purchase of firearms, where he then used and murdered 19 children. We've got to look at every situation. Colts nightclub, that shooter was known to law enforcement. Same thing with the Uvalde shooter. We've got to make sure that we close the gaps in law enforcement, ensure that they have the resources to have threat matrix, looking at the threats that are out there, and protect everybody in our community.
Yeah, we want people to stay safe. And of course, you'll let that message be known to voters in South Carolina as you head towards the general election. We'll be watching that campaign closely. Congresswoman Nancy Mace joining us this morning. Thank you for taking the time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.